Alrighty guys, welcome back. This is chapter 2. What we'll be doing in this chapter is breaking apart our model for Softimage. Alright, now Softimage requires a few things in order for it to correctly rig your face. What it requires is the head mesh, the skin itself, including the mouth sock and the eye sockets. It requires that they all be one uniform mesh, and that there's only one hole, and that's at the bottom. This means, of course, we've got to do some interesting things with our modeling. DAZ-wise, DAZ has already kind of sort of prepared us and speeded up our workflow. We have a mouth sock in here that is already attached to the lips, and if we do a quick optimize on our character. So if we go into face mode here and we go ahead and optimize, and we're going to hit Control Z and not do that one. We'll probably want to do that to our model without her having the skin deformer on her body. We're also probably going to want to separate the parts up first. Face robot also requires that the left eye, the right eye, the lower jaw, and the upper jaw, and the tongue are all separate objects. Alright, what we will want to do first is we want to have her head in the same location so that upon import back from a Softimage, we can easily optimize everything back together and everything can be baked nice and easily. Alright. Also, the benefit of actually separating our face out extends beyond Softimage. Separating our tongue, separating our eyes, separating our jaws allows for easier weighting. These objects are inside the head, so usually they're fully weighted to a certain bone. And by separating them out, especially since our DAZ rig doesn't give us a nice weighting of the head anyway, and we want far more control here in Cinema to extend our face robot animations. We want to separate those out and make it easier. Alright, so what we want to do first is we want to have our head in the same location, separated, because we want to be able to easily bake this all together in the future when we export back from Softimage. Alright, so to start with, since we want the head separate, what we should do is we should actually select it on a duplicate copy. So we're going to do a Control drag. We're going to drag out a new copy of her mesh with the skin deformer. And we're going to call this test FR rig. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a separate version with all the tags that we currently have. It'll all be in the same location, and it'll be easy for us to deal with when it comes time to bake. Alright, next what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we have Deformed Editing on. As you might recall, in Motion Builder, we have a offset animation here. She's slightly offset from the origin. And because of that, without Deformed Editing, what would end up happening is, as you can see, she snaps back to the origin, to basically her bind state. And we kind of lose the ability to be able to deform her in place, or we lose the ability to be able to edit her face in place. That's one. So the models kind of sort of don't correspond. We could fix that, of course, by putting her in her default T-pose, and that might be a valuable option. However, Deformed Editing also will allow us to control the jaw placement, which is going to be very important because when we get ready to separate the jaw, you'll see that we're going to have some issues if we're not able to actually move those jaws apart. So let's get to it. First, we're going to want to obviously hit Alt-V, which brings up this Viewport Attributes. We're going to want to turn on Deformed Editing so that we can edit in a deformed state. So now the bones have deformed her to this T-pose offset from the origin, and we have the ability to edit her here versus editing her at the origin in her bind pose. All right. Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to our front view, middle mouse click to bring up your foreview, and middle mouse click again in the view that you want to move to. And basically, we've got the front view up now. And as you can see in the front view, in wireframe mode, we do actually have geometry inside the head. We've got the mouth sock, we've got the jaws, and we've got the eyeballs. We're going to want to separate all these components. So, for Softimage, we really don't need to have the whole entire bust, per se, of the head. Depending upon what kind of animation you're trying to do, you may want the whole bust. Maybe you want to actually move the neck bone and actually have that animation be driven by motion capture. So you might want to bring in all that animation back from Softimage. In my particular case, I actually prefer just having the cheek and mouth movements, as well as probably the blinking of the eye, the brow movements, all that nuanced and very, very hard to replicate movement of the face. Here better in perspective view, these nuances of all the muscles in the face, these muscle groups that will tweak and will do certain characteristic things that just bring a character to life, things that when you don't see them, it begins to make you think that, 3D model is basically animated or basically not real. If you're trying to achieve true photorealistic animation results in your animations, then this is the reason why you would use Softimage versus Breako ProFace, because you get those nuanced animations in the cheekbones and the lips, these nuanced, very, very hard to replicating keyframes animation. All right, so back in the front view, we're going to want to go ahead and use our rectangular selection tool. We want to turn only select visible elements off, and we're just going to make a marquee selection here of this general area. All right, we're going to come back in perspective view, and we're going to nitpick a little bit. I basically want to get a good representation of her neck, just for viewers' sake in Softimage, just to make everything just look pretty when we export out there. All right, so I'm gonna turn off Marquee's import mesh, the basic DAS mesh. We no longer need that in our viewport, cluttering us up. I'm gonna switch to the live selection tool, and only select visible elements is on. And I'm just gonna go ahead and hold Shift, and I'm just gonna add to the selection and kind of just get a clean selection. I'm going to use Control to deselect these polygons. I'm just going to try to get a really clean selection around her neck, just basically getting nice, clean polygon flow going around the whole entire neck. So this is our base hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and invert our selection. So using my palette here in my production and hair tool set, I'm going to go ahead and basically invert the selection. And now we've got the rest of the body selected, and I'm going to go ahead and do a delete. Alright. So the rest of the body is gone. All we have is just the head on this current rig here. Alright. Now, what we can do is, using some of the tags that we already have available to us, we can go ahead and select certain parts of the body. And this is the reason why we made a copy, because we still have all our selection tags available to us, as well as our texture. And now we can go through and we can actually separate different objects without having to worry about issues. So anyway, we actually do not need the eyelashes in Softimage. That's going to cause us problems. It's going to say that there are holes in the mesh because these eyelashes are a separate polygonal object from the rest of the mesh. So we're going to go ahead and delete those, remove them. We're also going to have issues with another area of the mesh. And that's going to be the Lacquer Mills, basically little fleshy skin, tear duct-like things. These right here, the tear, that's basically a separate mesh as well. It's disjointed from the rest of the mesh. It's not actually truly a part of the mesh. You can go ahead and delete those polygons as well. And then yeah, the Lacquer Mills. No, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But it's just basically the tear duct area that's on the corner of the eye here. We don't need that to be deformed either in Softimage. And it's just going to cause us problems. Softimage is going to give us an error saying that there's a hole in the mesh or a non-continuous area in the mesh. And it'll be due to those. So anyway, we've cleared up all that weird eye stuff that Daz gave us. We can obviously bring that back when we reattach the head mesh, but for Softimage's purposes, for deforming the face, we're going to want to keep that off of there. Alright, so that basically cleaned up our head mesh quite a bit. Now, we're going to want to select the tag for skin face that we got from Daz, and so we've got part of the face selected. And now we can come over here and we can start to go through our tags and try to find other parts of the face. We've got the lip selection here, and we're going to want to just do a select polygons instead of double click. I've been doing double clicks to basically select those selections. Selecting the polygons this way using the button means it adds to the selection versus just making that selection the main selection. Alright, nostril selection, that's the inside of the nostrils. We're going to want that. So let's select the polygons and get that as well. Alright, we're making our way through here. We already destroyed the tears. Okay, we've got the skin head selection. Let's go ahead and select those polygons. And that's pretty much giving us just about everything we need on the head mesh. Alright, so all we need to do now is, we could find the selection for the neck, but I believe it's a part of the torso, and since we don't have the whole torso, we're not going to really worry about it. What we're going to do instead is we're just going to go through and we're going to use our Marquee selection tool with only select visible elements off. We're also going to go into our side view. We're going to hit S to zoom in on, or hit H to basically zoom all the way out to the whole entire scene, and we'll zoom in. And then we'll basically hold shift and we'll make selections here. And this will probably be the easiest way for us to gather up the rest of the polygon. And then we'll switch to the live select tool, and we'll use only select visible elements off, and we'll just go ahead and click through with shift and just grab the rest of that. Alright. So we'll come back here, and that looks great. To make this easier on ourselves in the future, the great thing about this now is we've basically created a selection of the whole entire head and neck. This is great for weighting, that we'll be doing soon. And this is also great for extraction. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to deselect everything by clicking in some random gray space here just to deselect everything. Then we'll select just the rig, which still has our selection. Sum of 4D remembered our selection. And we will click Set Selection. And we'll call this face underscore SEL. And this will be our face selection. And as you can see, it pops up there as a new tag. So now we have a tag dedicated strictly to the face. Now, what we're going to want to do is with these polygons selected, we're going to want to do a split. Possibly not a split. Let's figure out what's going on here. I know it relates to the skin deformer. There's a possibility what we can do is we can do a Control C. We can do a Control V. Let's see if this works out. And then if we get rid of the skin deformer, see what we get here. Yeah, that works as well as anything. We've got the face here, and we still got the same selection. It's a separate object from the object that we're already working on. And if we go ahead and invert, hit Control Z. We don't want to invert visibility. We want to actually invert the selection. So that's going to be this button here. And then we hit delete after making sure we have not selected a face that we don't want. We actually want that face. That's a part of the skin. So in our selection tag, let's only select visible elements again. Let's turn off soft selection. No need soft selection selected. And then we're going to hold Control and just deselect that face. Just make sure we just deselect this face as well. Don't really need either of those faces selected. We've got everything else selected. We're going to go ahead and delete all that junk. And now if we go into, say, a side view, and hit this blue arrow to kind of just jump over to the object, we should see that we've got nothing there. Alright. Now, in this particular case, her face is in the same spot as her bind pose, which is fine. We can easily get her main object to the bind pose as well. That's no problem. Alright. So anyway, that's great. Actually, while we're at it, Test the FR rig has already got the face selection made. We've also got our face separated here. For her face separated here, we're going to go ahead and call this test a face, and we'll go ahead and get rid of the point cache. We'll get rid of the weight tag. We don't need that anymore. Pretty much keep all the rest of the skin tags. Leave those alone. We'll probably get rid of all these selection tags just for OCD's sake. We don't really need any of those tags. And we'll just keep just the one tag that is the selection of the whole entire face here. Beautiful. And it looks like it was actually using all those tags to actually skin her face. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and Control Z and bring all those tags back. That way we can just keep a nice skinned object. It'll pop up in Softimage skinned, which will just look better in our viewport. Alright, so we'll just leave those alone. They're not hurting anything. Alright, on her actual face object itself, to make this easier on ourselves, I think we can go ahead and just get rid of the skin deformer at this point. No, we can't. We can't quite yet. What we're going to do instead is, with the face selection selected, and with her actual mesh selected, we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to hide the visibility of the selection. So we can get inside her head and see what she's thinking. No. So we can get inside her head and actually break these objects up. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hide selected. Now we can actually truly see inside and see what we're doing here. So we've got basically her eyes, and we've got the jaw. We've also got the mouth sock here, which technically needs to be a part of her head. We'll fix that in a couple of moments. But we're basically good. We've also got those two polygons we kind of didn't select correctly, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and separate the eye out now. So with our Marquee selection tool selected, we can just go in and just do a sweeping selection here to get the left eye and all its component parts. And we can go ahead and do a Control C and a Control V. And now we've got another object that has just the eye. We can go ahead and delete the skin deformer. And now we've got just the eye over here. We can also go ahead and delete the point cache and the weight tag. And now that object is clean. And in the future, we'll just have her eyes actually be separate in Cinema 4D. And I'll show you how that's going to work out. Right now, what we can do is we can go ahead and actually invert the selection. And now we've got everything selected but the eye, but the left eye. And we can go ahead and delete. And that'll pretty much knock out all of that. If we go ahead and hide her face, you should see that we only have just the eye. Just to make sure, we're going to make a marquee selection, just the eye. And then we're going to go ahead and unhide everything. And in this particular case, we can see that her head rig was hidden, so we still got that. We can go ahead and invert one more time. Go ahead and delete the head rig, and now all we have is just this eye. Gorgeous. Go ahead and call this test LI for left eye. Now we got our left eye separated. So let's continue here. Bring back her face, and go ahead and continue with our progress here. We're going to want to go ahead and get the right eye next. So let's marquee select that. We're going to need to be on test as FR rig first in order to marquee select that. Alright, and we'll make sure everything is selected. Looks like all the polygons are good. We're going to go ahead and do a Control C and a Control V. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. We'll go ahead and delete the skin deformer. Go ahead and delete the pose morphs and the point cache and the weighting tag. We're going to go ahead and rename this test RI for her right eye. We're going to go ahead and hide the left eye and the facial extractions. We're going to go ahead and unhide all to give us all our components so that we can see everything and delete it in one shot. We're going to go ahead and invert the selection, and we're going to go ahead and delete. And now we're just left with just the right eye. So now if we turn everything back on, we've got the left eye, right eye separated, we've got the face separated. Now we've got three separate components here. Alright, so we're moving along quite nicely here. Now for each of these components, what you're going to want to do also, bear in mind that there are a bunch of just vertices just lying out there. If we go to, say, one of the eyes, and we go into vertex mode, you see the whole entire body is there. Which is actually an interesting effect in and of itself for some motion graphics or something like that. But needless to say, this is going to really cause some issues when we export into FBX. It's going to see all this extra geometry and it's going to be like, what the hell is going on? So, you just right click and optimize. And that'll pretty much take care of all of that. Right click and optimize again. There we go. I basically dragged a marquee to make sure everything was unselected before I did the optimize, and it did automatically just go ahead and optimize out all those loose vertices. Left eye, same issue. Let's go ahead and do a deselection by just dragging in this gray space here, and then let's go right click and do an optimize. Now knock out all those vertices, and we do the same thing on the actual face itself. We hide left eye and the right eye, and in vertex mode, we don't appear to have the same issues that we had with the left eye and right eye. But, we've got to have the face selected first in order to be able to actually see if we had issues or not, and we do. Plenty of issues. So if we go ahead and right click and optimize this, maybe want to drag selection in empty space, then right click and optimize. There we go. Now we don't have any loose geometry. Okay, so our next task, if we choose to accept it, will be to go back to our test FR rig and see what we got next here. So yeah, we are coming along quite nicely. We need to get the jaws next.